Welcome to the Driveway Beers Podcast. Conversations you have in your driveway over a beer with your friends and neighbors. All right, welcome back to another show. Today is July 5th, so happy Independence Day to all those that want to celebrate it. Before we get started, go to drivewaybeerspodcast.com. Click on the private internet access link on the right-hand side. Reason why I'm telling you to do that is because right now, private internet access runs their best deal of the year. 39 months for $79. That comes out to about $1.33 a month. That's as good of a deal in the VPN world as you're going to get, especially for this quality of a VPN. Protect your identity, protect your credit card information, and grab yourself a great VPN deal from a great VPN. Again, this is the one I use personally on my own computer. I use it on my phone, my computer, wherever I need to, so that my credit card information stays private. So go to drivewaybeers.com. I'm sorry, drivewaybeerspodcast.com, and click on that link on the right hand side. So like I said, it's July 5th, and last week it was announced that UCLA and USC were going to join the Big Ten. This comes on the heels of last year's announcement that Texas and Oklahoma were going to go to the SEC from the Big 12. And of course, UCLA, USC, they're coming from the Pac-12. So what does this mean for the college landscape moving forward? That's a big question. I feel like it definitely puts the NCAA at risk as far as football goes. But right now, you've got the Big Ten with the addition of those two teams. That's going to be 16 teams there. 16 teams in the SEC.
Mm-hmm.
Now, keep in mind, the Big Ten was 10 schools.
Yeah.
Hence the name, right? Now, they're now up to 16. Do they stay at 16? Do they go to 20? Because the other part of this is, with 16, you got a nice number where you can do 4 14 divisions, or you can do 2 18 divisions. Kind of separates it out nicely, because obviously you're not going to play 15 games a year.
Yeah, because right now they have, what, Big Ten East?
East and West?
Is it East? Yeah, I think so.
Something like that? Or is it North and South? I don't know what it is. It's one of those two.
Yeah.
I know the SEC is East and West.
Right.
Right. And so, and then, of course, last year also, so the Big 12 had lost, after the announcement for Texas and Oklahoma to go to the SEC, the Big 12 reached an agreement with BYU, Central Florida, Cincinnati, and Houston to join the Big 12. Now, I know people are probably saying, well, who cares about BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, and Houston? Last year, BYU ended up 19th in the rankings.
Mm-hmm.
Cincinnati was number 4.
Yeah, Cincinnati played in the playoff.
Yeah, got the doors blown off, but they were still made it. They
were there. Yeah.
Houston was 17, so they're bringing in 3 ranked teams. And Central Florida, I don't know if you remember, wasn't that the school Lane Kiffin was at for a couple of years? And they claimed the national championship because they went undefeated a couple times. Yeah. But they were like number 5 or number 6, but he's gone now.
Yeah.
So the Big 12, as it currently stands, is 8 teams. Mm-hmm. But with those 4 teams, they're up to 12. The other big conferences, ACC is at 14.
Okay.
Pac-12 is at 10. So Pac-12 is actually the smallest conference now with those 2 teams out, UCLA and USC.
Who else? So it was USC, UCLA, and Stanford in the Pac-12, right? Who else was there? Was like Cal in there?
So you got Oregon, Washington State, Oregon State, Cal, Washington, Stanford, Utah. Utah was new.
Okay.
Arizona State, Colorado, that was also new.
Mm-hmm.
And then Arizona. Now, Utah and Colorado have only been in the Pac-12 for like 5 years, maybe?
Right.
Because they came over from, I want to say the WAC. Or something like that.
What about the Mountain West? Is that?
Mountain West. So Mountain West, they've got 10 teams right now. I'm sorry. No, wait. 12.
Okay.
San Diego State University and Utah State are the 2 big ones. because they were ranked 24 and 25 last year. But they've also got Fresno, Air Force, Nevada, Boise State, which is usually a top 15 team. Hawaii.
Okay.
Wyoming, not a big deal. San Jose State, not a big deal. Colorado State used to be D3, for crying out loud. UNLV, this isn't the Larry Johnson UNLV for basketball. And New Mexico, which is an also-ran.
Yeah.
And then you've also got the American Athletic, which is East Carolina, Tulsa, SMU, Memphis, Navy is probably the big name there. Temple, South Florida, Tulane. Other than, SMU's been trying to build up their program. They got that. Did you ever watch that 30 for 30 on SMU when they got they were the one that got the death penalty?
Okay.
For, I guess they were paying for players and stuff like that, but they were the university that got the sole death penalty. But they're trying to make a comeback. East Carolina, when they had David Garrard, I don't know if you remember him. He was a quarterback for the Jaguars all those years.
Okay, yeah.
But other than East Carolina, SMU, and Navy, Temple had a moment when they were coming back, and then they just dropped off again.
Temple's a basketball school. That's how. And Navy, Navy is for every other sport, they play in the
Patriot League.
Yeah, with Bucknell and Towson, a bunch of small small schools. So.
Is that height restriction? You can't you can only let in guys of a certain height.
Yeah,
because you can't fit in the ship.
Yeah,
David Robinson found that out the hard way.
Yep.
I still don't understand how they let him in the Naval Academy. Other than his smarts, but you gotta be look, man. You got all the brains in the world, but you can't fit in the ship.
Yeah,
it's kind of an issue with the Navy.
I know he was restricted to he couldn't. He wanted to be a submariner. Yeah. And I don't think he was able to do it because he was too tall.
He's too tall. You can't fit in the sub.
So he had to go into other. I guess he could have been a Navy SEAL. But
I don't think he fits in the helicopter that they would drop out of. My man was 7'1".
Yeah,
you don't fit in a lot of things at 7'1".
Yeah.
Obviously not going to be a pilot. They don't make a plane near that size.
No.
You could do the Shaq thing where they put him in a Buick.
Yeah.
Had him sit in the back seat.
The back seat, yep.
I don't think they're especially going to make a plane for David Robinson. The guy, when he was at the academy, it's what are you... no one thought to ask him how tall he was before he got there. Maybe we got to send this guy to the Army.
Yeah.
Maybe we got to send him to West Point.
Right.
Although I don't think he's fitting in a tank either. He could be infantry, though.
Infantry, yep.
You could fit him in a C-130 to get him over to the desert.
If they can fit a helicopter in a C-130, they can fit him in there.
Right. Yeah, I don't understand how that worked. But I the days of Navy being a basketball school are never. So, sorry, guys. Yeah. Thank you for your service.
Some people say football currently too. So,
but I remember with football though, they were always 9-3. They were in the top 20s.
They went to some minor bowl games and stuff like that. But now it seems like there's bowl games for everyone.
Don't get me started on that garbage. if you have a 500 record or above, you're bowl eligible.
Oh yeah, what was it in the Simpsons? Simpsons, you gotta love it. They've always got something, but it was the Duff Beer Mo's Tavern Quickie Mart Tostitos Bowl.
It's ridiculous. I think there's something called the Stamps.com Bowl.
Yeah,
come on, Stamps.com doesn't need a bowl. I remember it was funny when they came out with the Tostitos Fiesta Bowl. For me, I guess that was the first one that I remember being actually sponsored. And I was like, well, that kind of makes sense. Tostitos, Fiestas, sure, okay.
Yeah.
But the rest of the sponsorships never really made sense to me. But anyway, so it's kind of hard to see where this is going to go. Do you really... It's possibly you end up with either 4 16-team conferences, or do you go full 4 20-team conferences? And at that point, do you really need the NCAA anymore? Because right now, with the college football playoff, that's its own separate entity. That has nothing to do with the NCAA. So that little 14 tournament is separate from the NCAA. So they've already got an infrastructure, a corporation set up where they could unite under that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I mean, you got this. At that point, though, I think if you go that route, this whole amateur athletics thing is out the window.
Yeah.
It's done. It kind of is anyway with the name, image, and likeness that they approved last year. And, of course, nobody knew what they were doing with it.
Right.
So now it's the Wild West, you know. But if you've got these schools that are facilitating name, image, and likeness, and they have no issues with these kids making some money. Mm-hmm. And, oh, by the way, because only 2% of them are going to make it to their, to the NFL.
Yeah.
They're going to get an education out of it. And I know everyone's like, oh, education is garbage. No, well, look, no. If there's 120 kids on that team, unless it's Alabama, 100 of them are not making it to the NFL.
Oh, right. Yeah. Probably 110 of them.
Right. Now, with Alabama, that's different. I mean, like the 5th string cornerback gets drafted. So, that's a different story there. But, it's kind of like, what happens to the NCAA? Because there's a lot of schools that depend on the NCAA for organization, for playoff structures. It's kind of like the tie that binds a lot of these schools together for athletics. And it also does ensure some equality, especially for the women's sports.
Yeah.
So it's like, what happens to the NCAA? Do the schools that get left out, do they basically join together under the NCAA umbrella and just say, okay, we're not going to be the big schools with the TV contracts. Mm-hmm. We're going back to the roots of what amateur athletics is.
Yeah.
Almost similar. Basically, you break it down to Division One AA like it used to be, and what it is now is it's the FBS, which is the bowl subdivision, which is the big boys, and then you got the FCS, which is the championship subdivision, which was the old 1AA.
Yep.
And some of these schools might have to kind of go down from the old Division 1 to the 1AA. But I don't think that's a bad thing for a lot of these schools. Like, I mean, you got someone like a UNLV playing football. Look, you guys aren't making it to, I mean, you're going to make it to a bowl maybe once every 3 years.
Yeah.
All right, maybe
and it'll be one of those like quickie mart bowls.
Sure, and maybe going down to the FBS and playing in that 16-team playoff system. No, maybe because it is a 16-team playoff system, maybe they can work out their own deals that way.
Yeah,
make them bowl games.
Well, Division III football still does a playoff, and some of those games are really good. And what was it, a couple of years ago? I think was it UMBC or Towson went pretty far in it. They ended up losing to South Dakota.
Yep.
So like that's that to me, that's true amateur athlete. Those Division III players aren't getting any scholarship money. There's no big contracts. There's no TV contracts. It's it's almost like, just one step above high school.
Sure. And there's nothing wrong with that, though.
No, I played Division III football. It's still a lot of work, though. The athletes still work just as hard as the commitment's still as big as it is for a Division I school. Yeah,
and we get it. It's about money, right? Because, I mean, the main reason USC and UCLA, they're the ones that reached out to the Big Ten. The Big Ten didn't reach out to them. Mm-hmm. At least according to the sources, And this is hard-hitting news, so you heard it here last. Yeah. But apparently they reached out to the Big Ten, and the rumor has it that they realized that the Pac-12 was never going to sign a television contract as lucrative as the Big Ten has. Mm-hmm. The Big Ten, I mean, they were one of the pioneers in this because they had the Big Ten network.
Yeah.
And they also allow ESPN and Fox Sports to also televise some of their games. So they've got this TV thing down pat, and the SEC is starting to come along. But both of them are going to sign major deals coming up because their contracts are up. So UCLA and USC are like, look, from the TV contract alone, their pitch was, when you're going in for your negotiation, you're now adding LA,
the LA market
as a media market with two of the biggest schools.
Yeah,
that get crowds. And for people that in that area, USC football is legit. It is.
Oh yeah.
It is a crowd drawer when they're winning. Mm-hmm. Like when the Keyshawn Johnson era or whatever it was, the what was his name, Carson Palmer era. Those when those guys were there, that was the pro team because there was no pro team.
Right.
Well, I mean, judging by the Los Angeles Chargers crowds, it's still not a pro town.
Right. Now the Rams did. I mean, but they won. So
yeah, but even no one really mentioned the crowd size there.
Yeah.
Were people really going?
I don't know. That stadium's really cool.
It's massive.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't even know if they can fill it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I mean, the funny part is like
but a USC game would probably fill it.
You're right. I mean,
and USC still has some, like, they have a lot of, that's a tradition, they've got a lot of pageantry and stuff. They have the Trojan that rides out on the horse, and they play that one fight song every time they do something. It's a pretty cool atmosphere there. You think it's California, so everyone's aloof and like fake, but that's a pretty decent experience. I've never been to a game, but just from what I've seen on TV, like
the Coliseum looked packed.
Yeah,
And then one thing we had talked about this in the coaching carousel episode, and I don't know if I'm repeating myself, but Lincoln Riley was the guy who went from Oklahoma to USC. Now, a lot of people are like, why are you going to leave Oklahoma right before they're going in the SEC to go to USC? Other than the boatload of cash they threw at him. Right.
Right.
That probably didn't hurt. They basically bought all of his houses and gave him a private plane, whatever they did.
How do you sleep at night? On a large pile of money.
Yes. Hey, for any of you don't know, it's a reference to the Ben Shapiro and the Bill Maher show. Whatever that, Real Time with Bill Maher. But maybe they kind of got in his ear and said, hey, look, we're not going to be in the Pac-12 very much longer. We're going to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
So this might have been in place or started last year, or right after the college football season. Mm-hmm. And maybe they told them, hey, look, we want you to build what we got going on over here. Build it back up in the Big Ten, and we're going to have more resources than ever.
Yeah. Because
we're going to get some of that Big Ten TV contract money is going to be enormous that the Pac-12 could never give us.
Yeah, and then it probably helps with recruiting too. You're going to be playing Big Ten football as opposed to playing Pac-12. I mean, you think a kid is going to go and play, like, even if you're going to play on a losing team in the SEC, you're still in the SEC.
Yeah, I mean, you figure USC kind of lost out when Oregon kind of stepped up. Mm-hmm. Oregon was the swag school. When Phil Knight from Nike started putting a lot of money into Oregon athletics, he revamped all of the stadiums, the locker rooms, all your uniforms, your helmets came from Nike. It was three. I mean, you got 3 helmets, 3 jerseys, alternate jerseys.
Yeah,
I'm sure
it's just like what Kevin Plank is doing with University of Maryland in Under Armour.
But I mean, as an 18-year-old kid, it's a cool thing.
Yeah.
To say, hey, look, the minute you step on campus, you're getting 3 pairs of Nike shoes, 2 pairs of Nike cleats, a pair of Nike slides, 3 pairs of sweatpants, 3 sweatshirts.
Oh, yeah.
You're literally getting a laundry basket full of clothes that you don't have to pay for. Mm-hmm. There's no nickel and dime here.
Well, in those equipment rooms, they just walk in and grab whatever they want.
Right.
Like, it's not like, you have 6 T-shirts, you're only supposed to have 5. Like, they just grab whatever.
Right.
So...
And that's a recruiting tool.
Yeah.
And USC wasn't doing that. They kind of rested on their laurels. They rested on the national championships with Reggie Bush and and Matt Leinart and Pete. As soon as Pete Carroll left, though, whatever. I mean, if he was doing illegal stuff, he was doing it real well.
Yeah.
Because they were winning, and as soon as he left, it went downhill. Mm-hmm. And Oregon just kind of filled that void as far as the cool place to go.
Right.
Stanford is Stanford. Stanford is where all the smart kids go. It's. Are there a couple guys that come out and play football? Sure. And they're usually the smartest guys in the room when they get to that NFL locker room.
Yeah.
The only other person beating them out is Ryan Fitzpatrick from Harvard, right? You know what I mean? Like Stanford is probably the lone Ivy League school that isn't in the Ivy League. But the rest of these schools, I mean, you're talking about Washington State, Oregon State had a run every once in a while. Cal, Washington, Utah had a little bit of a run when Alex Smith was there, but that was Urban Meyer.
Yeah.
Once he left, that school didn't do anything. Arizona State, I think they had it wasn't Lovey. Was it Lovey Smith? But he's at Houston now with the Texans.
Yeah.
Colorado, outside of Cordell Stewart from back when we were young. And Arizona. Like, not one of those teams that I just mentioned, other than Stanford and Oregon, have any real appeal to anybody.
Yeah.
Other than people that went there. I get that. Whatever. You went there, good for you. Mm-hmm. But that also makes Stanford and Oregon prime pickup schools for someone else. Like if the ACC is looking to get that West Coast footprint.
Oh, yeah.
They got 14 teams right now. If you get those two, you're at 16.
Yep.
And that brings you to that brings you to what, 3 conferences at 16?
Yeah.
And the Big 12 at 12 with 12 teams, you can easily pick up 4 of those remaining Pac-12 teams if you really wanted to.
Yeah.
Or maybe you reach out to some of the independents. You got Army out there because Army's football conference, I think, went away.
Yeah, then you've got
UConn was in the Big East.
And that's Big East is a basketball conference.
Yeah, well, and so that's why UConn's independent for football.
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, UConn after Randy Edsall left has been garbage at football.
Well, I mean, nobody really thinks about UConn as like, oh, they have a football team.
Well, that's the thing. You forgot they had a football team.
Like women's basketball.
Sure.
They'll
wipe the floor with anybody.
Yeah.
And Notre Dame. New Mexico State's the only other independent, and no one cares about them. No one cares about the Aggies. Again, if I'm offending people by saying no one cares about your school,
they don't. Sorry,
nobody cares about your school.
Right.
No one cares about the school I went to. I'm not offended by it.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
I mean, we forgot UConn had a football team. So.
For real. Shoot, I almost forgot they had a men's basketball team, too.
Right. Like,
Zing.
they're just all women's basketball. Like,
right.
That's what they're known for.
Yes. Well, at one point they were known for men's basketball.
Yeah.
And then that went to the crapper.
Like, I mean, Tennessee, but Tennessee has some other thing. Like, I guess their best program right now is probably women's the Lady Vols, but.
Well, Dawn Staley down at South Carolina.
Yeah.
You're right. It was Tennessee and UConn were women's basketball.
Oh, yeah.
Because with Pat Summitt and Gino Auriemma, right? Pat Summitt retired. R.I.P. I believe she passed away of cancer. But Dawn Staley went down to South Carolina with the Gamecocks, and she's turned them into a national contender.
Yeah.
She learned under Gino Auriemma. She played at UConn. Mm-hmm. A lot of the women's basketball teams on the come up the coaches now are ex-UConn players.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's what it takes, though. Some places, and people don't really understand this, some places don't know how to win. They don't know how to recruit, and they don't know how to win.
Yeah.
There's only so many girls that can go to UConn.
Right.
They got a limited bench. You can't. Would you rather be the 12th person at UConn, or would you rather be in the rotation at Tennessee right now, or La Tech? Mm-hmm. Would you rather play, or do you want to sit?
Yeah. Yeah, a friend of my wife's, he was recruited heavily for different schools, like, big schools. Ended up going to Marist, which is
I know what Marist is.
Yeah.
They were our rivals.
Okay. So he went to Marist because he wanted to play. He could have gone to Maryland or Kansas or any of these, but he wanted to play at. He wanted to play. He just wanted to ride the bench. So, so I get that too. And he still had a full ride. So
yeah,
either way, it worked out for him.
So, I guess the next question is, who gets gobbled up by the next? I got to admit, you need at least 2 more conferences to go to 16 at least, if not 20.
Yeah.
And then there's going to be people who are left behind.
You think anyone gets kicked out of the big conferences?
So that's a good question.
I think about like Northwestern.
Right.
What has Northwestern done?
Or Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
Or the SEC.
Yeah. Yep. Or Illinois in the Big Ten.
I don't think you'll see, for the Big Ten, I don't think you'll see any of the big state schools get kicked out.
Yeah.
I was always surprised, though, that Iowa State never joined the Big Ten. Because you had Michigan and Michigan State.
Yeah. Wisconsin. They're all kind of right.
Right. Well, we have Michigan State, right?
Yep.
So why not Iowa and Iowa State?
Yeah.
They always say, "Oh, it's location." Is it?
It can't be because so Iowa is just to the what is it? It's just to the west of Illinois.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah, it's next state over, right?
Yeah, but then Minnesota is in the Big Ten, and they're right there.
Right. I mean, you've got Iowa already in.
Yeah.
So why not add Iowa State?
Yeah.
That's what I was wondering. Like, why didn't they just poach it out of the Big 12? Because Iowa State's in the Big 12.
Yep.
But, Big 12, Big 12 is making a case for itself to be sticking around.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Pac-12, if they don't do anything, they're not.
Yeah.
So, I think you're going to end up with the Big 10, the SEC. I think the ACC adds at least 2. And if they can go to 20, they can go to 20. I think the Pac-12 gets left out, and I think the Big 12 steps in. But the Big 12 has 12 teams right now. Now, the problem with the Big 12 is they're all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
But it was funny. Gary Williams was on 105.7 The Fan, and they were kind of talking about this a little bit. And Bruce Cunningham said, "Does it really matter if you're taking a charter flight 2 hours or 5 hours?
Yeah, I don't think it. Yeah,
you're still on a charter. You're on a private plane.
Yeah, they're not riding buses anymore.
Right.
So these...
so maybe region isn't
a
factor anymore. But I think it does. I think it means something for people, though. Like, for the people that watch, if you were a Big Ten fan, it was because you were from the Midwest. I mean, even when they expanded out, Penn State's still in that rural part of Pennsylvania,
mm-hmm.
in that western part of Pennsylvania.
Penn State's in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Like, it's directly right in the center of the state.
Right.
So,
but it's not considered part of Philadelphia.
No.
I mean,
nor is it part of Pittsburgh.
Right. But then when they added Maryland and then Rutgers was probably I wouldn't say first major city school they added,
mm-hmm.
because that's not really, there's major cities in the Midwest, but I would say that was probably the first Maryland and Rutgers were probably the first non-Midwestern type schools.
Yeah.
But they wanted those media markets. They
Right.
wanted the DC, Baltimore media market, and they wanted the New York City media market.
Yeah.
And that's why they brought them in. So I'm interested. That's why UConn might be attractive, though, because you're getting those Connecticut markets.
Mm-hmm.
And like it or not, there's a lot of rich people in Connecticut.
Oh yeah,
spend money.
Well, that's also Connecticut also starts getting into that New England,
right?
Because Connecticut is straight, because like a lot of Connecticut falls into that New York sphere of influence, but then the eastern part of it borders Rhode Island, which is all Boston.
Well, in the ACC with Boston College,
mm-hmm.
they got that. Is there another big school in Boston?
Boston University.
Yeah, but that's hockey school. They're not playing anything else.
No,
and they're not picking them up for hockey.
No, even though Big Ten hockey is pretty
right.
They do play like
right.
hockey on the Big Ten network. Penn State just went from within the last couple of years, went from a club team to an actual Division I, program. So they built a huge arena and they got a massive endowment to do it. But that's becoming a decent hockey school. So
the only problem for the ACC is it's not a very strong football school.
No.
And there is rumors right now that Miami is looking to get out.
Let's see, SEC.
Well, either that or Big Ten, because the Big Ten doesn't have any reach down there.
No.
That's a rumor. I don't know if that's a real thing. But the problem with the ACC is, other than Clemson, and I'm looking down this list here, Clemson, maybe Florida State. Is there really a football school that really wets the whistle for some of these guys?
I mean, Virginia Tech has a following.
Yeah.
And they have, it's almost the big, which is, University of Maryland is right outside of D.C., but it seems like the college football team of the DMV, especially the Virginia side, is Virginia Tech.
Yeah.
You see VT stickers all over the Beltway.
You do, yeah.
So
you do.
And it's weird, like University of Maryland's huge, and it's 4 miles outside the district.
Right.
So it's like, but Virginia Tech is the bigger draw.
Yeah, but I think that was because they had all those years under Frank Beamer.
Yeah.
When they were national threats every year.
Yeah.
But they haven't been that in like 10 years.
No.
So when does that fan base kind of wane a little bit, right?
Yeah, all the front runners.
Yeah. Or the people that went there because of Virginia Tech football. Maybe their enrollment's down because the football hasn't been great.
Yeah.
There are people that go to schools just because they want that big time football experience. They want that to be part of their college experience. And if that hasn't been there for the last few years, maybe enrollment's been down, but we don't know. And maybe Clemson is kind of making a call to the SEC. Now, that would be murderer's row for football.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And Clemson may not want to do that unless they thought the ACC was dying.
But if the say Clemson did go,
yeah,
and then say Miami went or Virginia Tech went, at that point, then the ACC is kind of dying out. Now, ACC basketball is awesome,
right?
But when Maryland left, that kind of ruined that Duke Maryland rivalry. Then you had UNC too in that. But nobody thinks about UNC for football.
No, but Maryland was never part of a Duke rivalry. Maryland thought they were in a rivalry. Yeah. Duke didn't think so.
Well, there were a couple years under Gary Williams, and then when they won the national championship or the tournament that was.
Yeah, but if you asked anyone from Duke, he said, "Who's your rival?"
Yeah, not Maryland.
It's UNC.
Yeah.
You go to anyone from UNC and say, "Who's your rival?" It's Duke.
Yeah.
Maryland doesn't even
factor in.
They don't even have to think about that.
Yeah.
But if you talk to Maryland, who's your rival? Duke. All right, buddy. Living in dream world.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as far as basketball goes, that's an interesting kind of side issue with this. Because basketball, the NCAA, think about how much money the NCAA tournament brings in.
Mm-hmm.
If these schools say, look, we know there's going to be some collateral damage and some basketball schools are going to be left out, like a Georgetown.
Yeah.
Right? Now, I mean, Georgetown has been kind of off basketball-wise lately, but a lot of those Big East schools that don't have football, maybe they just bring them in and make them eligible for whatever this group is going to be, whatever their basketball tournament is going to be.
Yeah.
Maybe they just say, okay, we'll let you in for that. Because the other thing is, if you got 4 conferences of 20, 40, 60, it's a 64-team tournament. So you're saying you're going to let every team in? Basically?
Yeah.
because you don't have to worry about the AQs anymore, those smaller conferences.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically just say, look, we're gonna have this one big end of year free for all.
Yeah.
60 teams. Maybe we'll add 4 more. Or if you add the Big East for the basketball, maybe you throw them. Maybe you do like a 54 and 10. They could give them 10 bids, and everyone, the Big Four, get like their 54 bids or whatever. I don't know, but essentially, if you cut out the NCAA, you don't have to give them their cut anymore.
Right.
You're basically cutting out the mafia don. I'm wondering, like, this is. I mean, at this point, I think it's going to happen. Because why wouldn't Alabama want to give money to the NCAA anymore for football? It's one of those things where I think they've moved slow enough where I don't think the uproar is going to be as big. Like, I remember when this first started happening, when even like teams like Pitt and Syracuse, when they left the Big East to go to the ACC, that was like the first wave. Maryland went to the Big Ten.
Yeah.
People, this is going to ruin college athletics. And I think now everyone's just kind of resigned to the fact this is going to happen.
Right.
So they slow rolled it a little bit, little by little, and I think they're going to evade a lot of the criticisms that they would have normally gotten. Mm-hmm. But
yeah, Syracuse is another school because that used to be a football. Back Donovan McNabb went to Syracuse.
So, me being from upstate New York, Syracuse was like where every kid who played football wanted to go. Mm-hmm. That was the New York school. Yeah, it wasn't because New York City really didn't have a school.
No,
that played football.
Yeah,
so it was either Syracuse was the big name. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean Albany was like the second tier.
Yeah.
But even there,
but Syracuse was at least playing like nationally televised games, and
they were playing like they could have played at Notre Dame.
Yeah,
they were. I mean, that was the big thing. They were playing big name.
They say recruiting at Syracuse is hard because it's kind of in the middle of nowhere and it's cold all the time, and but then Miami is easy. Right. You can recruit people to Miami, just take them down to South Beach and be like, look at all these bikinis. Like the kids are like, I'm there.
Like, hey there, kid from Florida. Look at all this snow. Isn't it great?
Yeah.
But no, this is not great. This is cold as hell.
Right. This isn't fun.
Yeah. You said it's like this 8-9 months out of the year?
Right.
No, thanks. I'm out.
There's no beach.
Right? No beach. Yeah. Never mind beach. It's frozen.
Right.
We got a lake. It's over there. It's frozen 8 months out of the year. You won't ever see it. You'll be back home in Miami,
right?
in those warm months,
filling out your transfer applications.
Right. Transfer portal number 1, transfer portal number 2. Yeah, this is going to happen. What the fallout will be, I don't know. I think these are going to be probably the final dominoes, though, because once you get to 16 teams in each of these conferences. If you've already got the college football playoff as a separate entity and away from the NCAA, why do you need to play by the NCAA rules anymore?
Right.
Now you can put your own rules in for name, image, and likeness.
Yeah.
That everyone's going to follow. You can just get rolling on it.
Because if all those schools got together, say Big Ten. Let's go with the two big monsters, the big monsters in the room.
Yep.
SEC, Big Ten. They all get together and say, you know what? Screw you, NCAA. We don't care about your sanctions. We don't care about any of it. We are going we're going rogue, and we're gonna pay players. We're gonna give them contracts and educations. If they all did it in unison, what's the NCAA gonna do?
Yeah, and you make a good point there with if the Big Ten and the SEC do it, they'll drag whoever else with them.
Yeah.
Because those are the two big ones.
Yeah.
If you do that, if those two, and it might behoove them to do that because they can then create the rules that they want, and the people that they bring in just have to abide by them.
Yeah.
But they don't have to listen to more. If they're making the rules together, they don't got to listen to the ACC.
Right.
They don't have to listen to the Big 12 because These two conferences are the ones that are bringing the money in.
Yeah.
Why am I going to listen to the ACC when they don't bring in near the money we do?
Mm-hmm.
No, this is how I want it set up because I'm bringing in the money. And anyone who wants to come in and play under these rules, fine. Because we're going to need more teams.
Yeah. And then does the NCAA then go and say, well, we're going to have to survive as an entity and not just be some minor player among Division III colleges, and small schools? Do they go and say, okay, we're going to change our rules to match your rules so that we can still stay in this cut?
Yeah, there's a huge issue there. And that once these big teams are gone, if the NCAA tries to coordinate the rest of them, there's no draw there.
Yeah.
The NCAA is going to lose. I mean, if you lose the NCAA tournament money and whatever bowl money there was, your budget goes down significantly, and you're no longer the juggernaut. Mm-hmm. You're no longer the NCAA. Yeah. Now, you're right, though. I mean, could they modify their rules? Sure. Or just adopt the rules from those conferences, just so that the teams that are left under the NCAA can play against them.
Yeah,
sure. But those teams that are still under the NCAA and whatever conference they're in, they're always going to be at a disadvantage money wise.
Oh yeah,
always.
I mean, they are now,
right?
Just as a bit, but say okay, now if they did do that, because in the beginning of the year, football. There's no preseason, but there kind of is, because like the big, huge schools go and play these tiny schools and whip up on them, but the little schools like to do it because it gets them that game in front of Ohio State or Alabama, so they do it.
Well, they get paid too.
Yeah. If those schools were NCAA schools, could they play schools that were not?
That I think. If they weren't able to, that'd be on the NCAA.
Yeah.
I don't think these big schools would say, no, you can't go play that team and beat up on it.
Right.
Like they need, like you said, that's the preseason for them. Appalachian State. Although I remember the one year they won.
When they beat Michigan, which was awesome.
Yes. I do think the one thing that these super conferences are going to miss, if they don't play the smaller schools, is that the kind of David and Goliath thing, especially in the basketball realm.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone loved it when a 15, 14, 13 seed makes it to the Elite Eight.
Oh, the Cinderella.
Right.
Everyone loves that school.
But if your 13 seed is another team from the major conference, it's not as exciting.
Right.
That's not a Cinderella story.
No, it's just the NBA with like... the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah. Right.
Like they're just a bad team.
Right. A bad team nobody cared about.
Right.
Yeah. Whereas the other team, like when you have the Cinderella story, like not only did the fans of that school get on board, the rest of the country got on board because they hate the big school.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you want to see VCU go and take down people.
Oh yeah.
Or when Gonzaga, they're the small school that everyone loves.
Yeah. Remember when Mason showed up and George Mason.
Yeah.
And then there's the 1 year Weber State.
Or the Chicago Loyola with the nun.
Yeah.
Everyone loves that stuff.
Yeah.
But if you don't have those teams available to you anymore.
Even when you're doing your bracket, you're supposed to pick your Cinderella team.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder what will happen in that case though. If you kind of lose some of that. Now these schools are probably gonna say, look, people get over it. They're gonna
then a lousy team like Maryland becomes
the Cinderella, yeah. Well, a lot of these teams are probably like, who cares about basketball? Will bring in whatever basketball is going to bring in.
Yeah.
Football brings the money in. Football is what drives the television contract.
Mm-hmm.
We could fund 3 NCAA tournaments every year for the increased amount of money that we're bringing in because of what we just did.
Mm-hmm.
And you really can't argue with them there.
Yeah.
You do run into the whole thing of, do they have to become a pro sports league? So right now you get the nonprofit designation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have to then go to a pro sports model where you get the antitrust exemption, but you now have to have a union for the players.
Yeah.
And you have to negotiate and in good faith and all this other stuff. And it's like, you might end up opening that door.
And then then you have the thing like right now, college football rosters, like you'll look at the sideline for a home game and you'll have like 2 number 90s,
right?
Because they've run out of numbers,
and that might be an unforeseen consequence.
Yeah. So then, do they chop the roster to 53 like the NFL does?
Yeah, it might not be 53, but they may limit it down to maybe 80 or 90.
Or say they make it 100,
right?
Just so that you have to have a number for every player, you know.
Well, you figure 20 kids per school, or 20 kids per school. Let's say they're 20-team conferences. That's what, 400 kids?
Yeah.
Per conference? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that really cuts it down.
Yeah.
For a lot of kids. I mean,
and that really is those expanded rosters. That really is their minor league system almost.
Right.
Like that's who you're bringing those guys. And not everyone on these football teams is there on a full scholarship.
Right. Some are walk-on, preferred walk-ons.
Yep.
Partial scholarships. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I get that.
They might come on and walk on with nothing one year and then really tear it up, and then that next year they're there on a scholarship.
Right.
So
yeah, they're going to run into a lot of hurdles with legalities.
Yeah.
And then what do you do with that?
But then, and I look at it like, so, I always kind of have it stuck in my head because like Big Ten was always kind of your Northeast to Upper Midwest conference, but now it's kind of expanded out past that.
I always thought of it as a Midwestern conference.
Yeah.
I never thought of it as a Northeastern.
Yeah. Well, because of Penn State was in there. They're the furthest east.
Yeah, I always thought of that. I still thought that. I still think of Pittsburgh as like a Midwest.
Yeah,
it's on the border over there with Ohio.
Yeah, but
over near Pittsburgh.
Then you had the SEC, which I think, that's the southern south. But really, when they go and they start bringing these schools in, it's almost like an AL-NL type of deal, where you have. You could have 2 teams in the same state. One is the SEC, one's the Big Ten. Just like we have the Nationals and the Orioles.
Right.
Or in the same city with the Yankees and the Mets. So,
yeah. And it's interesting. That's another interesting point. It's like, what are they going to do with something? I mean, shoot. The SEC is still going to be somewhat of a regional conference. I mean, you're basically reaching from South Carolina, Florida to Texas.
Yeah.
You're not really going any further north than Tennessee.
Mm-hmm. And any further west than Texas.
Correct. So that's still somewhat regional.
Yeah.
Other than UCLA and USC and Rutgers, I would say the Big Ten's still somewhat regional. Although Maryland, but
if you look at the NFL,
yeah,
it kind of has a similar footprint to the Big Ten minus. Now, the Big Ten doesn't have that southern reach, but the NFL has teams in LA and Chicago and the East Coast to your Rutgers, Penn State, Maryland. So that's it has a similar footprint to the NFL minus the southern teams. But before the Atlanta Falcons, DC, the Redskins, now the Commanders, were the team of the South.
I wonder if after, let's say there are the four conferences of 20, they all get together, they form their own league.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think maybe they reorganize into more regional groups?
Could be. But then
I think that's going to be harder to do, though.
But then what do? You kick? The NHL did it. So the NHL reorganized, and they ruined one of the greatest rivalries in sports when they moved Detroit from the West to the East. Now, nobody except hockey thought of Detroit as a West Coast, as a Western Conference anything.
Right.
The Pistons don't play the Lions, the Tigers, the Bears. Oh my! But none of them play in a Western division or conference except in hockey. And when they moved it, they ruined the Detroit Red Wings Colorado Avalanche rivalry, which was vicious. That they hated each other. It was awesome. Yeah. Watching those two teams beat the crap out of each other every playoffs was awesome. Now you won't see it unless you go to a Stanley Cup. So what you risk ruining some of that stuff if you start moving teams.
Yeah, but they screwed that up when they moved the Avalanche to the Avalanche. Were they the Winnipeg Jets?
No, the Avalanche were the Quebec Nordiques.
There it is. So
but nobody cared about the Nordiques, except there was a rivalry between like the Nordiques and the Whalers, and the Nordiques and the Bruins, and the Nordiques and the and the Bruins. But when they moved, they went to Colorado, were good, and then started playing. It was like the two big kids on the block all of a sudden are now, right there.
Yeah. The problem with, and I always feel like with any league, if you're on the West Coast, that West Coast bias is real.
Yeah.
Because the majority of the country still lives on the East Coast. Lives east of the Mississippi River.
Yeah.
There are not a whole lot of people in the middle.
No.
And then you got California.
Yeah, you've got your big metropolitan areas, I guess, are Seattle, San Francisco, and Los Angeles.
Well, you got San Diego too.
Yeah,
a little bit, and then
but San Diego, that's SoCal. That's just. I don't want to say it's just like LA, but
right.
It kind of is.
I mean, the only quote unquote Midwestern states that have big populations are in Texas.
Well, Chicago is.
Well, that's true. I meant like west of the Mississippi.
Yeah.
So Chicago is still technically east of the Mississippi, I believe.
Yes.
So
yes.
I'm thinking west of the Mississippi. Other than Texas, where's their major city with a lot of people? I can't think of one. Kansas City?
Denver.
But
there's nothing.
Vegas, maybe.
Yeah, but Vegas is only recently starting to even get pro sports.
Yeah.
There was they avoided Las Vegas like the plague.
But you got all the areas. I mean, there's a lot of land surrounding those.
Oh, yeah.
Where there isn't a lot of people, and it's really hard to create more of a fan base outside of your direct city.
Yeah. Well, just look at a satellite image at night of that part of the country.
Yeah, I know. I love watching that. And
it's just, you've got a couple bright spots, whereas you look on the East Coast, it's pretty much the entire Eastern Seaboard.
Well, yeah, I mean, they've always said that basically D.C. to Boston is one big city.
Oh, yeah.
Because the sprawl is just kind of intermixed between the big cities.
And it's almost now D.C. to, D.C. is to Richmond to, your Tidewater, Virginia, Norfolk, Hampton roads. It's all going to come together at one point.
Sure. Yeah, it'll be interesting how this shakes out. I wonder how it'll affect the kids. I wonder what's going to happen to some of these smaller schools that they put a lot of money into their football programs to kind of be relevant. Mm-hmm. Like a San Diego State University, a Utah State. I mean, these guys are ranked. Even like a Cincinnati, Houston, yeah, they're going to the Big 12, but is the Big 12 going to be anything? Yeah. I mean, the Big 12's got Baylor, who used to be big, and then they had their scandal, and now they're nothing. Mm-hmm. TCU, they're not anything anymore, and they used to be in the top 2. They were top 5 every year for a while.
Yep.
Kansas is never going to be anything as far as football goes. Texas Tech, you had a couple years with the Red Raiders. Was that Johnny Manziel? Texas Tech?
No, he was Texas A&M.
A&M, all right. So then I can't even get the right school for them. So shows how relevant it is.
I mean, it's huge to them.
Sure, I'm sure it is. Anyone who went to that school is big. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. That's your school. Be proud of that.
Yeah.
But on the national landscape, sorry, barely anyone knows who you are.
Right.
Only thing I know about Texas Tech, I know where Mike Leach was, and I think Cliff Kingsbury went there and played there, and they were running gun and all this stuff, and they got the guy, the mustachioed guy, and the guns, and that was the mascot for them. But other than that, they're really without Texas and Oklahoma. That Big 12 isn't going to be much anymore either.
Yeah.
So I wonder what happens, and what happens to the kids. A lot of those kids go to those schools. They think they're going to make it. Of course, 98% of them aren't.
Right.
Or maybe 97. I guess bigger school kids got more of an opportunity to make the NFL. But whatever. I don't know. It will be interesting though, because it's got to shake out somehow. But yeah, any last words on this one?
No. I just I am though excited. You know, this is the time of year where you start thinking about college football. We had 4th of July. MLB will have the All. Now I'm more of a baseball fan than I am a college football fan, but you know, I think just you start looking for, because college football. Then you've got people start talking about that. Then of course NFL in August. So you know which is TV gets interesting again.
I know with college football, I'm more of a fan of particular games.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love watching the Notre Dame games at home in the fall.
Oh yeah.
I'm not a Notre Dame fan, but I remember like watching that movie Rudy, which is a great movie.
Oh yeah.
And they show the atmosphere. I feel like when I watch a Notre Dame game on TV, it still looks like it does from that movie.
Well, going to see a football game at Notre Dame is on my list.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge Notre Dame fan.
Right.
But I think I'd like to go see a game there would be really cool. Just like I want to go see a game at Fenway. I hate the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah.
I want to go see a game at Yankee Stadium. I hate them too. But those are your iconic. Well, Yankee Stadium's new, but I'd love to go see a game at Wrigley.
Yeah.
Because it's the atmosphere, it's the history, the stadium, the people that played there.
Yeah.
I'd like to go. I still haven't gone to see a Navy game.
Right.
And they're what?
2 minutes down the road.
Yeah. And in fact, my son swims in their pool. And if you go and you walk around, so it's Lejeune Hall is where the pool is. Well, on the second level, which is where this kind of stands go down, they have it's kind of where all their trophies are. And they have, Roger Staubach's Heisman is there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's just sitting, it's almost like tucked into a corner.
Right.
Like, oh, and I looked at it and said, is that? It is. And, I forgot he went to Navy.
Yeah.
But, so there's some history. And the Naval Academy, of course, with the midshipmen marching in and doing all that stuff there's some pageantry there.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind going to see an Auburn-Alabama game.
Yeah.
Or even like a Ohio State-Michigan game.
Yeah.
Like when I watch those on TV, it's like you can almost feel the energy from it.
Oh, yeah.
And not that it's like hype energy, it's just that it's, that people have been there since like the 1900s watching those games.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like I want to go see a Green Bay Packers game at Lambeau. Mm-hmm. I'm not a big Packer fan.
In December?
Yeah. Like I want to do it.
Yeah.
And I hate the cold. But maybe I'll muster it up and I'll go. And
well, the neat thing about that stadium, first of all, Green Bay is like the city the size of Annapolis, and then the stadium's like in the middle of a neighborhood, just like
Naval Academy.
Yeah, it's right in the middle of a neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I think that would be cool to go there. Like, there's definitely things I want to go see, even though I'm not a fan. And I agree with you. I think sometimes the games are more like, watching like Michigan, Ohio, Penn State, Ohio State. Like, those are, always good games.
I almost want to be like a Penn State fan. Like, I can't turn that switch on in my brain to go be a Penn State fan.
So I saw Penn State at Nebraska at night in Happy Valley. It was awesome. And I was not a Penn State fan when I went to this. My buddy's family had a condo there. They're such huge Penn State fans. They actually had a condo there for their season tickets. So they had an extra seat. So I went, and it was I couldn't talk when I left from yelling so loud, and I didn't drink anything, and it was just such an awesome atmosphere. And it didn't hurt at the time that I hated Nebraska, because that's when they were good. Mm-hmm. Well, I forget the coach's name. He used to run the score up on everybody.
Tom Osborne.
Yeah, to improve his standing.
Right.
And I think was Nebraska independent then, or were they in a different conference?
They were in the Big 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, that was awesome. I kind of became a Penn State fan then, but I will never be like, oh no, I got to be home. Penn State's on.
Yeah. I for whatever reason, like, I'm not that I'm jealous of people that have that, but it's interesting to be that invested in something.
Yeah.
Something bigger than yourself, right? It's almost like I want that.
Yeah.
But I don't think I can get in that band. I don't know if I can get on that bandwagon.
What I don't get the people. So I was born in Pennsylvania and I went to college in Pennsylvania. So I do have some Pennsylvania connection. I don't get the people that are like diehard Alabama fans and have absolutely no connection to it at all.
Right.
Like, oh, did you go there? Oh no, I didn't even go to college. Oh, all right. Are you like? Are you from there? Nope. Couldn't even find it on a map. But they're good. Okay. Roll Tide.
Roll Tide. Part of me wants to be an Alabama fan just so I can walk around going, Roll Tide. Hey, you want me to fill up your gas? Roll Tide.
Yeah. So I don't understand that part of it. Like I know a guy who's a diehard Ohio State fan. Not from there. I know another guy that's a diehard Michigan fan. I don't. It doesn't compute,
right?
So who knows? I guess, but they're still diehard Cowboy fans from here. So
yeah. Well, I mean, it's the Pittsburgh diaspora I can understand because people left Pittsburgh.
Yes,
and so they took their Steelers fandom with them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when the Mills shut down and stuff, a lot of those people just scattered off into the wind and ended up, and they just became Steeler fans, and they're here now as Steeler fans.
Yeah, but the Dallas one I don't get. Other than, it's just the people that jumped on the bandwagon when Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith
So there is at least in the D.C. area, I read a very interesting article in the Washington Post about why there are so many Cowboy fans, particularly black Cowboy fans in D.C. Mm-hmm. And one of the reasons was that the former owner of the Redskins,
Jack Kent Cooke,
before him, was an ardent racist, and the Redskins were the last team to integrate. So all these, there's these black people living in D.C., and they're like, I can't root for this team.
Right.
So who do you pick? Well, you pick their rival.
Right.
So when I read that article, I was like, oh, I get it now.
Right.
That makes sense. Like, you know what? Go Cowboys, like, for that, because, you guys were like, hey, screw this guy.
Right.
So I get that.
Right.
But there are other ones, though, that I don't get. I don't understand it.
Fun fact about Jack Kent Cooke. Used to own the Lakers.
Yeah, I need to watch that.
Winning Time?
Yeah.
Jerry Buss bought it from Jack Kent Cooke.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've beaten this horse pretty dead so far. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. We may end up talking about this next couple months, see what more dominoes drop, where some schools end up. But thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. Please go to the drivewaybeerspodcast.com. Click on that link for private internet access. Get your 3-year deal on a VPN. And again, this is the best deal that they run. This is the one I pick up whenever my subscription is running out. This is the one I pick up to get my best deal. Full disclosure, we do get a small commission when people sign up using our link. Price is the same whether you use our link or not, so if you can help us out, click our link. Or go to our website. You can always donate to the show. There's a donate page on there if you feel like we're creating some good content for you. Again, we hope you like the show, and we'll talk to you next time.